we got no time. Seconds or minutes are just passing by. We better hurry. Let's make it right now. Cause maybe tomorrow won't be this time. And that makes me worry. But I hope that you remember all this we'll live together. Cause you are the love of my life. And I gotta ask, don't let this moment go. Don't let we just waste it. I'll kiss you and then you kiss me. And if I have to go, oh baby, just save it for every time you think of me. Don't let this moment go. Don't let this moment go.
Hi, and welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
Hi, and welcome back to our final and fifth episode of our spoiler section of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas.
Woo!
Welcome back. It's crazy that we're getting to the end, but also this is our last mini episode, which is kind of sad, at least until the next season.
I think I've literally every episode this season, I think I've said, I can't believe we're this far or whatever. Legit, no joke. It does not feel like we're at the end of our third season. Obviously, we have 2 more mains and then the 2 bonus episodes, but for this to be our last mini of this season, it doesn't really feel right.
Time is an illusion, and also, like, every time we look up, it's like, oh, wait, it's September?
Oh, shit. It is the 3rd. Oh, man.
That's how I feel at work all the time when I get the monthly calendar in my email for the office. And I'm like, oh, fuck, it's next month?
It's like, why are you sending this to me? Aren't we still in the last month?
Because normally I, like, X out my days, like, when I'm done. And, like, this time August, like, I hadn't done it for 2 weeks. And so I'm like, oh, shit. It did pass. Labor Day did happen. At this point, people just tell me when not to come in, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I don't remember what the holiday is. That almost happened with Christmas. If everybody wasn't already being like, oh my god, Merry Christmas, it's like, oh yeah, we're not coming in. Okay.
Yeah.
Just don't tell me when.
It's like, where did the last 2 weeks of August go? I don't know.
Right. But yeah, so this is our last mini episode of this season. So again, I just want to reiterate to everybody, these are spoiler episodes. So if you haven't read to the end of A Court of Silver Flame, so the end of ACOTAR, anything up to there is free game to talk about. So if you care, great. Don't listen to this episode. Read all of ACOTAR. Then you can come back and listen to these. And if you don't care, you can listen to this, I guess.
And I do suggest you come back if you pass over this, because we talk about some really great stuff.
We do. And especially like stuff to come as well. Because again, for everybody, this isn't a completed series yet. Obviously, Sarah has way more to come, which is great, but also, okay, you're killing us level of crazy. Yeah, please come back. But again, yes, spoiler episodes for the whole ACOTAR series. And again, yes, we are explicit. We cuss a lot. I would like to say it more as tasteful cussing, but especially when it's like excited. Yes. To accentuate, to enhance.
We don't cuss to cuss. We just do it to show off how extreme our emotions are.
Or yeah, if I'm just like fucking excited. You know what I mean? Like, and it just comes out.
Let's fucking go.
But no, we don't cuss in the oh my god, like fuck this, fuck that. Wait, but anyway, yes. Be wary of little listening ears.
Yes.
But yeah, so we are going to talk about for this episode, since we've kind of put it off for a while because we wanted to save it for a special moment, but we are going to be talking about the future relationships of Prithian and what's to come, because again, we've kind of slightly brought them over time in multiple episodes, but like, here's where we get into the nitty gritty of what we have seen, what we know, and what we think is to come.
And we're more gonna focus on the relationships that we're not so certain about.
Yes, so Faysand and Nessian, so Feyre and Rhysand, and Nesta and Cassian will have their own, future relationships to come, because obviously their relationship relationships aren't over yet. They're just more complete than the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be talking about them later. So we will be talking about multiple people over this time. So let's just get right into it. Let's start.
Woo.
So the people that we know the most about are, and what people are hinting at about this next ACOTAR book is going to be centering around Asriel's POV.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm excited for.
Oh, yeah. You're very excited for it. Yeah. The reason that people are hinting it's going to be Asriel's point of view, and again, Sarah J. Maas herself has not, she's maybe hinted, but like not necessarily said directly.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of seems like that's where the story is going. It makes sense, but also he's the one we've gotten the most about. He's also the last, because again, for people who read ACOTAR like I did, when you read Frost and Starlight, Nesta and Cassian's point of views were brought up a lot, which was like very much hinting at their story in Silver Flame. And so then, that being said, in Silver Flame, we get Asriel's POV, which makes me think that Sarah's writing it in his point of view now, because there was a mini chapter after Silver Flame with him.
Which was the very first time that we got an Asriel point of view.
Which is, we'll talk about that. But also, it was a wild ride. So I guess to start with Asriel's relationships, I mean, I guess we gotta start with him and Mor. He was pining after Mor for 500 years.
A long time to have a crush.
Obviously, we know that she is full, I mean, I don't want to say full lesbian, but she prefers women over men.
Very heavily, it seems.
Very. Or that men are kind of more like, okay, maybe good for sex, maybe once in a while, but not necessarily on an emotional, romantic level.
Right. They would be just that, for sex.
Yes. And so for most of our story, up until I honestly, I would say, honestly, when it starts to go downhill is the beginning of ACOWAR, when the thing with Eris and Kier happens.
Yeah.
I think is kind of the downfall in their close relationship.
I think so. Especially with it's almost like at the beginning of this third book, when Tamlin's whipping of the sentry literally split the court. It felt very similar to that when Mor ripped her hand away from Az.
Yeah, because you could say honestly, I could even say that maybe it started to kind of diminish in Mist and Fury when he meets Elaine, but also I think that's a little early. I think he was definitely intrigued by Elaine, and definitely seeing his brothers interacting with their future women, which leads Asriel down this very dangerous path, at least to us, in this constant thinking that, oh, 3 brothers, 3 sisters, the cauldron made it this way, which it didn't.
I mean, honestly, he was thinking the same things we were, so...
No. First time read. Yes, we're all thinking, yes, great. 3 brothers, 3 sisters, it'll be great. And then our thoughts about Elaine went downhill, and then we're like, nah, don't, no. But so, obviously, I think he starts to dote on Elaine more, especially during ACOWAR, right? Because there are so many moments, when Elaine is, sorry, I'm not playing the pronoun game here, when Elaine is in her depressive state, when he goes out and sits in the garden with her, when he's doing his work, and she's just kind of standing there beside, like, she's really the only one who, during that whole quote-unquote depression time, is really interacting with him.
Right. And he feels comfortable enough to spread his wings and send them.
Yeah, so it's odd that he's so comfortable with her.
It feels almost like he's trying to push it, though. I mean, of course, I'm definitely biased. One, because he is my favorite. He's my boy. And on the other side, I very much strongly dislike Elaine. I won't say hate. Hate is a powerful word. And I don't want them together. I don't think they belong together. First of all, that would hurt Lucian, but also back off from Az. Now that I've got that out of the way.
No, because, yeah.
But it's like, it definitely feels like he's trying to force it because he sees, Nesta with Cassian and Feyre and Rhys together. And he's like, well, clearly things with Mor weren't working, but like maybe this is fated. Again, the 3 brothers, 3 sisters thing. So I am gonna try and do what I can to see if that will work, even though she's a mated female already. And it kind of feels similar to may seem a little similar to how it felt like Tamlin was pushing to be with Feyre. Almost like, and he's worried like the mating bond hasn't fallen into place yet. That kind kind of vibe.
Because he wants to be loved so badly.
He does.
And he deserves to be loved. He definitely does. But
It's
he's
not by
also,
Elaine.
he's searching for it in the wrong, because she's such a fucking hypocrite. You know what I mean? She talks about loving Grayson, but then she's like semi-flirting with Azriel most of that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then even up till after the whole Grayson moment. So how can she say that she's pining for him when she's like semi-flirting with him as Azriel as well?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, bitch, what are you?
Honestly, in that sense, it just feels more like Elaine is trying to just completely bury the fact that she's made it to Lucian. It seems like she's going completely out of her way to ignore Lucian.
Which is so interesting, because normally in a fantasy book, I just need to go on a quick rant for this.
Go ahead.
This is the first time that we're seeing, at this point, a love quadrangle. Like,
yeah,
it's mostly a love triangle, but with the addition of Gwen, I would say that it's kind of like a quadrangle thing, because everybody's tied. But like, the thing is about SJM up till this far, and it's something about fantasy books, if you guys aren't versed into the fantasy aspect, or like, there's a lot of love triangles.
Yeah.
Think of Katniss and Peeta and what was his name? Gale in the Hunger Games. You got Edward, Bella, Jacob, and Twilight. Like, any textbook fantasy you think of has a love triangle. And so, honestly, I'm surprised SJM up until this point has not had one.
Right.
Like, which is refreshing in a way. Well, I guess you could say Tamlin, Rhysand, and Feyre were a love triangle, but it wasn't a true love triangle. You know what I mean? Like, Feyre was over Rhysand, or sorry, Tamlin was over, Jesus, please, no. Feyre was over Tamlin by the time she started liking it wasn't a true love triangle.
Right, right.
To where I like this guy at the same time as I like the other guy.
Right.
That
and
hasn't happened.
I think Az is also just trying to figure out who he actually likes, or what it means to actually like someone. I think because he got stuck in the pining after more for 500 years, I think he's lost sight of what it actually means for him personally to like someone and be attracted to someone. I think I've mentioned this before, but it feels like with more, it may have started off like an actual crush, but then I think over time it kind of shifted into, I probably should keep with this because I have to, right? You know, I've been after her for this long. I have to be like that. Or I know we've mentioned that it almost feels like a jealousy thing of like, I deserve to be with her because I found her in Autumn, which he does kind of have that savior complex in a way.
No, we were about seeing the same thing. Like, every relationship up until this point that we're talking about, more Elaine, Gwen, there's this level of, I saved them. It's almost like he has this, it's almost like this trigger trauma response of like, oh, I saved them. Not that I need to get anything in return. He's taking the saving as, okay, this means that we're connected now. Like, he's mistaking that for romance. And it's like, in some cases, yes, you know, somebody saving the other person could spark something, but
it doesn't make you entitled to it.
Especially with Elaine, what's interesting about their whole dynamic at the end of ACOTAR, like going from then Azriel kind of flirting with her during the time, and then it actually getting to the quote-unquote wartime. He's trying to, not even just trying, but he's trying to see this romance during a very harsh time when, like, all this shit's going down. They think it's going to be the end of the world. So they think they're having this big, like, especially he's having these big emotions of, this is who I'm supposed to be with because, you know,
for
like,
whatever
again,
reason he comes up with.
Everything's happening all at once. And I kind of understand getting overwhelmed and thinking like, okay, if I'm going to die tomorrow, who's the person that I want to spend my last hours with?
Right.
You know, if that's Elaine at the time. So I think then with the shift of especially him giving her the knife at the end.
Yeah, truth teller. I sometimes forget about that, but it's like, yeah, that's very much of like, well, apparently I'm not using this today, so it'd be better in your hands.
Especially since they brought it up the whole last book about how, you know, nobody touches that knife, you know, like he doesn't give that to anybody. Yeah. And it's like,
Like with the Elaine took the knife and their hands brushed for a moment. It's like
which we're just jaded because both of us at first were like, oh, that's kind of cute. And then just
now
Elaine
it pisses me off.
Elaine in general just making things happen. Especially when he saves her from the Highburn camp, obviously. That's another big thing about this. Oh my god, you came for me and then whatever. And
her reaction though.
It still pisses me off that she's just like kisses him on the cheek and he's about to like fall in the mud, like collapsed and like doesn't help him at all.
Like torn apart.
He's like, okay, bye.
She's like, thanks. See you next time. Same time next week. Great.
Good God. So again, we are jaded. If you're like, because there are a lot of people who are pro Elaine Asriel.
Mm-hmm.
We don't agree, but also there's no hate for you.
No.
It's just, we personally don't think that she's worthy of him.
Mm-hmm.
So then, especially during Frost and Starlight, because I don't want to miss it, there's just so many moments of sexual tension between Elaine and Asriel during that mini book. I don't want to say mini book, but the novella.
Yeah.
Because especially like because she made dinner and whatever, and then I think he gets like mad when they're about to eat without her.
Yeah, he's
when
like,
she
wait,
was
where is she? She's the one who made all this food.
He like grabbed Cassian's hand and he's just like, we don't eat until everybody's sitting at the table, and it's like
Cassian's like, what the fuck, dude?
It's like, and then Reese tries to cover it up by saying like, oh yeah, it just reminds him of his mother. I'm like, I don't think that's 100% what it was, but like, good try.
Sure. I mean, wasn't Cassian's mother also a chef in a camp?
No, I think she was a seamstress.
Oh, that's right, she was.
Not that, I mean, again, they're both
workers,
quote-unquote womanly chores in those camps, but like, at the same time, I don't think that had anything to do with his mother. I think that was just him getting protective and just being like, okay, this, honestly, that was kind of cute though. Him getting, like, you know, hey, this woman slaved away making our food, so wait for her.
I think there's an element that they're for the wrong reasons, but there is also the element where it is, she made this food, let's wait for her. I think the aggressive nature of him stopping Cassian was in the wrong place for the wrong reason.
Yeah. It was very male territorial-esque nature. Like, I feel like he's trying to see a mating bond with people when it's not there. Like you said, like Tamlin did, unfortunately.
He wants the mating bond so bad because it means that the person will probably be with him. I think he does also, I mean, again, we haven't seen really any point of views from him, but to me at least, you know, with how obsessed I am with him. You know, I read into a lot of his scenes, even just little things that he says.
Yeah.
I feel like with him, I mean, clearly there's the fear of abandonment, you know, spending his first 8 years of life in a dark cell. There's clearly that fear of abandonment. I know I've mentioned before, there's that desire for feminine company, and that doesn't even just mean sex. You know, he got to see his mother like twice a month, something like that. And even then it was inconsistent in how long it was. So there's clearly a want for a female presence. And he got a little bit of that with Reese's mom, probably Reese's sister too, but we don't even really know about her. But I think with the mating bond, the reason he's pressing for it so hard, not just because he thinks he deserves it, but because having a mating bond, I think to him means that it's going to be a female that cannot leave him. He's maybe assuming that his mate is a female, like it probably could be, but also in Sarah's world, it could be male also. So it's like, we don't know about that. But it's just like, I think that might be one of his reasons about why he's pushing so hard for the mating bond.
I think it's also two other things, honestly. I think, number one, I agree with everything you're saying. Number two, I think on top of the abandonment issues, imagine, because I have two friends. I mean, obviously, like, they are also part of my inner circle, and they're in relationships.
Right.
Imagine being the only one unmated.
That's true. Not even just the only one not in a relationship, the only one not mated.
He feels so, not only does he feel unworthy, but he feels like he's missing out on some, because like his brothers have done everything over the years together. They were in the camps together. He already felt behind in like, you know, flying and learning. And this is just one more thing he's behind in. Whether or not he thinks he's ever going to be mated to anybody. Because I also feel like it's a worth thing. He doesn't feel worthy. Like he's hoping for a mate because that's going to mean he's worthy.
But there is, I think, that fear. Like he feels that fear of like, what if I don't get a mate?
Then he's unworthy.
Yeah, then he'll be left behind. Again, the abandonment.
So it's just a culmination of things. And Elaine kind of being her very wishy-washy self is not helping. Because then, especially when we get into Silver Flame, again, there's not necessarily, one more thing about Frost and Starlight. Isn't that the one where like she gets him a gift? She gets him the earplugs? No, that's the
headache medicine.
The headache medicine was in Frost and Starlight. And then the second gift was like the earplugs because she was making a joke about Cassia and Nesta keeping him up at night.
Which, for Elaine to be making that kind of joke, she's not so innocent, dudes.
Which is, at first I thought that the gifts were cute. I was like, oh, that's like a funny gift to get somebody that you don't really know.
Yeah.
But especially in Silver Flame, there's not very many moments where we're seeing them together interacting. I think there's like maybe a couple I could pick at. Number one, he gets really defensive when Elaine comes to see Nesta that first time, and Nesta fucking blows up at Elaine, and she runs out crying. Obviously, he's on the offensive. He's like, what happened? What did she do? I was kind of like Nesta there. I was like, do you think I did something?
Yeah, like immediately not even thinking that Elaine could be part of the problem in that sense.
So there was that moment, and then really the only other moment that we actually have with them is their mini chapter, which had a lot to unpack in it. So it was a mini chapter about the night of the winter solstice.
Once everyone's gone to bed and gone to their separate rooms.
So Asriel didn't get her a gift the first year. He asked, but Reese told them not to get the sisters anything. So then the second year, because she gave him a gift previous year, he got her a necklace, which
okay, that's sweet.
It's sweet, but the interaction that follows, I am just...
So, I mean, even in the first read, I'll preface this to say, even in the first read through, I was still kind of on the Elaine Asriel bandwagon, but then reading this mini chapter, I'm just like, what the fuck, Elaine? Like, I mean, I was kind of like, I was still kind of shipping you guys, even if I'm very protective of Asriel, but this is just a full player move.
You can say because it was after Grace, well, because like Elaine is so confusing because a lot of the time in Silver Flame, she'll talk about wanting to become human again. Like even Amryn calls her out at some point.
Yeah.
But then she's flirting with Asriel. Well, Lucian is there, by the way. Lucian is there because
literally upstairs.
My God, it was so, and he comes we'll get into that, but like so
Lucian is sweet.
First of all, I'll tell you, Asriel's thoughts, hot as fuck, because I just, the idea of like he's about to set down the present, and we'll deep dive into this, obviously when we get there, we'll deep dive into the mini chapters, don't worry about that, but this idea of like almost about to lay it down, and then all of a sudden, he smells her son, and then he turns around, she's there in her nightie, and
of course she's in a nightie. Why is she up at night again?
Honestly, I imagine, for real though.
Why is she up at night? And especially, like, where is she going in her nightie?
Number two, she totally seems like that kind of girl that would wear, like, a granny nightie, though. Not like a sexy nightie. I'm talking, like...
True. That's
like,
true.
to the floor.
Yeah. Not Favor's kind of nightie.
Bridgerton level nightie.
Yes.
And so, then what proceeds to happen, like, she's like, can you put the necklace on me?
Here, let me move my hair off of my neck.
And then the thoughts that go... I am so hyped for Asriel's, like, when he finally have sex, it's going to I thought the Nessian scenes were gonna be bad. No, Asriel.
I mean, even Sarah has confirmed that he's the kinkiest of them.
I know it's gonna.
So I am personally very excited
because it's like I love how at first he's just like, oh, beautiful girl, and he's just like, okay, I want to bite that neck, lick it, but I want to hear, I want to fuck her, and it's like, oh my God, this level of
he does get very primal very quickly.
Dude, so you.
Yeah, why else do you think I like him?
Just like his train of thought was such a Liesl move. I was like, okay, this is why you like Asriel and I like Cassian, because Cassian's just like that legit all the time. There's no build up. It's just that, and like
he's just straightforward a fucking machine.
Yeah, yours is more like, okay, we're gonna go up this incline, and then it's just, do you know those like incline planes, the ones that go up immediately? Like they have a slow progression, and then it's like a
exponential.
Yes, you are like you and him are like an exponential graph. It's so like low at first, and then all of a sudden just fucking spikes.
And then you and like, Cassian are just completely linear.
It's just a straight line going. There's no going up. It's literally just here, like
like anyway. Maybe to begin with, it is like a very, very steep line, and then it caps out.
Yeah. So
anyway, that is to say, I'm very excited to hear more of his thoughts.
Oh, I'm excited to see Asriel's point of view. But the interesting thing about the end to that, which totally makes makes me think also that Azriel and Elaine aren't going to make it is the fact that Rhys is so against it.
I know, for Rhys to like be there basically yelling at him and then scolding him afterwards.
So Elaine and Azriel are about to kiss. So they got close enough to kiss. And Rhys calls him up and basically tells him, dude, Lucian is here. You can't do that.
God, it also literally takes like 3 calls of Rhys to speak to him in his mind of Azriel. Like using the full name.
And that's where kind of Azriel goes into a little bit. He's just like, why did the cauldron, give you guys 2 sisters? Like, we're supposed to be together. Like, why did choose? And there's a bunch of conspiracy theories we could go into about like why that is. Some people think that the mating bond with Lucian is cauldron made thing and not a mother made thing. And so they think that cauldron put Lucian and her together when actually the mother wants I don't think that's true.
I think it's interesting though, like in this scene, this is kind of first time that we're seeing Az loses cool.
Oh yeah.
Which,
also
in your words, hot. But like when you think about it, I mean, of course we've been in Favor's perspective pretty much until now. But it's also, even then in Favor's perspective, we haven't ever really seen him like get pissed off except for the one time with Eris.
And also just Elaine being horny. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I mean, it also is weird to think about, of course we'll go into whatever when we get into Silver Flame, but the fact that we find out that Elaine lost her virginity to Grayson pretty early on.
Which is so crazy because that meant that Nesta was the last one to lose her virginity. The whore.
Yeah. As the oldest sister and the one that turned whore, like...
Yeah. Respectfully turned whore when she got into Valaris.
And, yeah, which is fair. She never had sex with a human.
Yeah, good. It wasn't good anyway.
Well, she wouldn't know. And then she found Cassian. That's besides the point. We're talking about...
And then was ruined forever. But yes, so overall, I think that there's a lot of theories out there about Elaine and him, but I don't really think that's going to happen. Which then moving into Gwen is the one that we're rooting for.
Yeah.
Because not only is Gwen a Valkyrie, she's someone who's not like a damsel in distress, if that makes sense.
No, she's been through trauma, which of course Azriel knows. He was the one who saved her. She doesn't really let that control her. I find super inspiring, like you said, she's a Valkyrie, but she, she's also a priestess. She also has a job. She's a working woman down in the library. She's a singer, and it's just like, she has all these things going for her, and she is, I really admire, her willingness to learn as well and try these new things, despite what she's been through in the past.
I think the difference with Gwen, Elaine, and more, honestly, I think Gwen's the strongest. I don't want to I don't want to cap it more, but also...
I mean, they're strong. More is strong in her own way. Cameron said she more still has some things that she needs to figure out. And I think Gwen, for the most part, has her shit figured out.
Gwen is better at being truthful with herself and knowing when knowing her quote-unquote weaknesses and trying to at least she's more optimistic. Like, again, for people who don't remember, her twin got killed in front of her, and then she got raped multiple times. Like, she had some really terrible shit happen to her. And of course, Azriel came to save her, but Azriel didn't really strike up obviously, why would he strike up a relationship with a rape victim? Like, I don't think, no. But I think what's different here is that she's the first one to take up Nesta's offer and to get the other girls going in terms of, I don't want to be helpless again. And then, honestly, Gwen turns out to be probably the most into the Valkyrie stuff.
I mean, she is the one who then looks into all the research about the Valkyries and the history and all of their techniques. She's the one who looks into everything. And I think on top of that, if we mentioned the ribbon challenge, she was the one who I wouldn't say that she was training the hardest, but at the same time, it felt like she was most determined to cut that ribbon. And I mean, we can tie that into the Gwynriel idea of she seemed to take that ribbon cutting challenge as a challenge to Azriel, because it was about the whole oh yeah, we don't have a prize because you guys aren't gonna do it kind of challenge. And she's like, oh really, so what are you gonna give me if I do win? That kind of vibe.
God, their dynamic is so hilarious, and I want to see more of it. That's why I'm that's the difference between Elaine and Gwen. I'm excited because Gwen challenges Azriel. He needs someone to challenge him because he's dealt with these very, I don't want to say even more to a certain extent, isn't someone who's necessarily going to pick a fight with him because she sees him as a brother. She sees him as this member of the family. She's not going to like play this kind of game that honestly is kind of a pattern in these relationships where it's like, because especially when they first see each other during the training, when Azriel comes first, she's a little wary of him. But also, at some point, like Liesl said, there's this kind of, it's almost like he knows instinctively to push her. And then, like, knows that something good's gonna come out of it. And she's just like, you don't think I can fucking do it? Okay, let's do it. Let's see. And then, especially when it comes to, I'm getting excited. I love Gwen.
I mean, I do too.
I think Gwen with the whole, because again, there's definitely much more progression here of growth in terms of, they started out, especially the Valkyrie stuff, didn't really start out as Valkyrie. They were like, okay, this is going to be a self-defense class and we're not going to fight to be warriors. Obviously, that's not what we're doing. And then somehow, slowly onto that path, started to like get deeper into it and then realized, no, we have warrior hearts. We want to fight.
Of, you know, the constant message of never again, because they have been through shit. I mean, obviously, we've heard that with Reese and Feyre before, but I think in this sense, it works a little bit better of the never again, just because they did not have power before to prevent it, whatever ended up happening to them. But what I was going to say about you mentioning that Gwen challenges as, I think it's less so, I don't think he always knows that she has the potential. I mean, of course, there's an extent that she does, a level of, but I think it's more so he doesn't know what to expect from her, whereas he knows what to expect from Mor because he's been around her for 500 plus years. And then, you know, with Elaine, he thinks he knows what to expect from her, but no one really knows what to expect from her because she's playing some different game that no one knows, in my opinion. But I think with Gwen, she's mysterious to him and he is mysterious. So for him to be almost like stunned by her, stunned, shocked, surprised, whatever verb, adjective you want to use, whatever. I don't do English very well, apparently. But I think that's what makes him intrigued in her. And honestly, yes, I love Gwen. She is amazing. She is just, honestly, I want to be her friend. But I think she also just speaks to him in a way that he hasn't been really spoken to. Like, it's not condescending or anything like that, but it's also not super like, oh yeah, whatever you want to do. She has a mind of her own.
It's almost like Azriel gives me that vibe of that guy who thinks he knows the kind of woman he wants to have. I want to have this this is a very general overgeneralization, but like, I want the very pretty, demure, I don't want to say housewife, because that's demeaning, but like, because Elaine is very much like the lady. He kind of wants a lady.
He wants a wife.
A wife. But the thing is, that's not what he needs.
Right.
It's like he wants something like that because he thinks that like it's kind of like Mor. But also at the same time, Mor is a fucking warrior. He likes warriors. He likes someone who can, again, he's like delusioned into thinking that Elaine is somehow, they're destined to be together because of circumstance. But in reality, I think Gwen matches him so much more in terms of not only a challenge, but also like she's a very, but also it's also because she's enigma in herself, because she's a quarter like nymph or whatever.
Yeah, a quarter water nymph.
And again, in SJM universe, anybody who's like half, quarter, whatever, obviously has some sort of good magic potential. Because again, I feel like which could mate with Azriel, because Azriel's really powerful, and obviously Gwen is power in her own in terms of her physicality and her Valkyrie forms, I guess. But also, I think it's also because she has an untapped power potential that they don't really know about.
Right, because we haven't really seen much like magic related stuff from her. I think what I want to say is about, you know, the equal of being mates and stuff. I think there's an element where Az thinks that he could be mated to, well, obviously not mated, but meant for Elaine because she is a seer and he can see things with his shadows or hear things from his shadows. That was like something that I was considering. But I think with Gwen, I mean, of course we have to remember now, and it's something we'll go into in Silver Flame, Gwen and Az are technically the same rank when it comes to like the blood right. So they're literally equals in that sense. Okay. Honestly, this may be more of a shallow detail, but I just really love the fact that literally Azriel's shadows sing in her presence. Maybe that's just me as a music lover. Maybe it's because I like both of these characters and I ship them really hard. But I think if I'm trying to be a little bit more objective about it, you know, with with Elaine, his shadows disappeared, which is not good. And I've said it before, because his shadows are literally part of him. So if they're disappearing, that means it suggests that he's hiding a part of him, or like a part of him is not accepted by her.
No, I agree. Like, I was literally going to bring that up, so thank you. Like, I think at first, before Gwen was introduced, it was quote unquote a good thing, because you could spin it as, oh, his shadows are disappearing. He's like coming out of the shadows more. Like, I think that was like the initial intent.
Yeah.
Like, for people is like a misdirect, right? Because SJM's perfect at those. It was in the moment before you knew who Gwen was, and like these incidents that we had, there was a level of, oh, Elaine makes Azrael's shadows disappear, as in, oh, you get to see him fully, he's coming out, which is not, and I agree with Liesl 100%. I think that's the opposite. I think, like you said, it's hiding a part of you and whatever, and in fact, especially in that same mini chapter, that's where we get the most actual Gwen and Azrael interaction.
Where Az seems actually happy.
So their interaction is a little bit confusing, because at first, like, obviously he's reeling from the fact that he just got told off and he was about to kiss, and he's sexually frustrated about Elaine. So I think at first he's kind of with her, that she's up there, because Gwen's up there in the middle of the night trying to cut the ribbon, and she's just so direct of like, oh, so you're a shadow singer, does that mean you sing? And he's like, I don't think anybody's ever actually asked me that. No, that's not what it means, but yes, I do sing.
I know. She's like, well, you didn't answer the question, do you sing? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, when I read that, I'm like, wait, what? You actually sing? You gotta sing for me. Sorry.
I honestly, no, you know what's interesting? I feel like in this way, you know how SJM in this series in particular, the men know before the women about their relationship? What if it's reversed here to where Gwen knows, but he doesn't?
Oh, you think she can sense it?
I think so. I think it's I think she's doing a Uno reversal here with the gender swap, where it's like the men are kind of know the path as in maybe to the mating bond. Whilst I think here Gwen, because Gwen is so tapped into her spirituality, there's no way that she wouldn't see something like that, or at least know to sense it. Like, they talk about Gwen all the time with her spirituality, and, you know, because of her being a priestess and her singing, that she kind of has this connection to magic that a lot of other people don't have. So it's very interesting. I wonder if she sang how his shadows would react.
Yeah.
I wonder if it'd be like a thing where they curled around her or something, and somehow in that romantic moment his shadows would pull her in, but he didn't do it. Like, he wasn't doing it by his own fruition. I can totally see like something like that happening.
I see it too.
I think it's just maybe my knowledge of Sarah in the 16 books that I've read of hers, but I think I'm well versed enough in her that I know that Elaine and Azrael doesn't feel right to me, and so Gwen and Azrael feel right, because Azrael is so gung-ho about every other woman that he's not seeing this one. It makes so much sense that he's not, which is sucky, but also Gwen is kind of getting the Cassian Rhysand treatment of, okay, I know, and that means I'm gonna have to fucking walk with him while we do this, like, but I think she's ready for the long haul, but I don't think that they're necessarily ready yet.
Right. I think they need to get closer. I mean, obviously that's how all relationships start, but like in the sense of, you know, in the training ring, they've been talking a little bit more, and, you know, with this mini chapter, you know, they actually had a bit more of a conversation, you know, Azrael giving her one-on-one practice on how to cut the ribbon, which I actually only know just because I just pulled up the chapter, because of course I have the chapter saved.
You're welcome.
Which, yeah, I have the link saved. Whole like one-on-one, and specifically demonstrating that for her, which I don't think in Silver Flame we see he's worked with others, but for the most part, you know, Nesta, Gwen, and Emery, they were working with Cassian while Az worked with the other priestesses. So it's like interesting to see the more one-on-one kind of thing.
So I told Liesl this kind of crack theory at some point about how I think Azrael's going to figure out that Gwen is his mate, or whether or not they're mates or whatever. Like, I mean, I think that's what's going to happen, because again, we said in one of our previous spoiler episodes, I think that there's going to be a lot of more interbreeding, because I feel like one of the big things about the mating bond is that people they were divided, and Gwen is not a full fae. So I think that also puts her in the running for being a mate, because she's not a high fae. Not that Azrael is either, but
that does fit with our previous theory of, you know.
But that wasn't my crack theory. My crack theory is, I feel like what's going to happen is she's going to spend, because they're trying to integrate the Valkyries and the Illyrians, and kind of, I don't know, showing the Illyrians that women can do shit too, which will like teach them to not try to put women in their place as much. And so I feel like this intermingling of Illyrians and Valkyries are going to happen. And I think Balthazar is going to come back, who's the person that saved them, saved Nesta and Emery, I believe.
Yeah, it wasn't Gwen.
No, Gwen was not in that interaction, but he saved them and let them come into the cave with him, and they all snuggled up for warmth the first night of the rite. I think what's going to happen is Balthazar is going to like flirt with Gwen.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, just to interrupt for a moment. I remember the theory, but definitely, I mean, because Gwen, you know, being a priestess in the library, they don't really leave the library much. But, you know, the reason that they were in the rite was because she had gone to Emery's with Nesta. So in that sense, I believe that kind of was a stepping stone, a threshold for her to then spend more time in the Illyrian camp. So I definitely agree with you on that. And also, I really want Balthazar to come back, because why was he given a name if he's not come back?
Right. Why would they name him, and why would they make it seem like...
why would he save them and be like an actual good Illyrian male?
I mean, I kind of agree with him, though, what he said. He was like, okay, if I didn't help you, Lord Cassian would come after me. Like, I know who you are. If I don't help you, either Cassian's coming after me or High Lady Feyre. So in that case, I could kind of understand. But I feel
he respects High Lady.
But he respects Cassian, though. He definitely does.
I know, for an Illyrian to actually respect Cassian, and then also, you know, in their backwards tradition, for them to respect a High Lady over, like, maybe he mentions just briefly Rhys. I don't even know if he mentions Rhys. So the fact that he's more so focused on the High Lady and then the Cassian that most of the Illyrians don't appreciate. It's like, okay, so this guy actually has some kind of priority and smarts to him.
So, because I feel like it'll be very dramatic, right? Because obviously they didn't tell, you know, you don't tell, you know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Like, they don't talk about the rite, but if Balthazar all of a sudden comes out of the woodwork and he's just like, oh, hey, Nesta, hey, Emery, they're gonna, like, the guys are just gonna be like, who the fuck is that? And it's like, oh, yeah, he's da-da-da. Like, I feel like it's just very dramatic.
He helped us the first night of the ride so that we didn't get eaten by all the monsters.
And we were all naked, and he's like, what?
It's like, oh yeah, by the way, Cassian, 3 of us, like, we were huddling naked in a cave, so...
And Balthazar's just like, please, God, shut up. This is not going to help me at all. Because it also feeds into the fact that Azriel doesn't really like the Illyrians, and so, like, it's going to be a thing where I feel like it's dramatic because Gwen as well, especially if she's going to be the love interest, coming out of a rape scenario and trying to be with somebody, he's going to be like, no Illyrian's going to be worthy for you in terms of having a first quote-unquote time with, because something bad's going to happen. You shouldn't date an Illyrian, like, they're terrible, whatever. She's like, but you're an Illyrian.
I feel like in that sense, then Gwen is, I mean, obviously you mentioned, you know, Gwen's going to help Az through all of his own trauma. But so I think that's going to be, at least what I hope, is that Gwen helps Az see that the Illyrians aren't the worst ever.
I think she will.
Like, working through that. I mean, obviously they're backwards and they're fucked up at times, but they're not the worst. They are good warriors, and obviously Emery is great. Like, she's an Illyrian warrior. She's a Valkyrie warrior. She runs a store and likes to read smutty books. She's not that bad.
Yeah, so I mean, that was my crack theory. I mean, I hope that Gwen in Azriel Endgame, I think it'll be better, but I also trust Sarah that she's gonna do like a breaking of a mating bond, which I don't think is going to happen, but also if the mating bond's fake, I mean, again, that all like depends on all of these different things that like I could know shit about. But I just don't think Elaine and like if Elaine and Azriel were actually good for each other, I could totally be in like breaking the mating bond thing. But I just don't think they are.
They're not meant for each other. They're not good for each other. She's not good for him.
Also, of course, what a better first time to have than with Azriel, who's going to be very gentle for the first time.
Is he though?
Well, it depends, because I feel like Gwen is not as quote unquote weak in that way as, because I feel like if it's very like instinctually mate-like, I think he's gonna want to be soft with her at first because he knows and cautious, and then she's gonna be like, no, fuck.
Honestly, that is kind of her vibe, because like you said, with the challenging, I think he's more so gonna be cautious about just her previous experience of just like, are you sure you're okay with this? You know, constantly checking in, and she's like, all right, you know what? I'm taking over.
Yeah, it's like, no.
Clearly you're not doing anything.
It's like, no, let's do it. Well, I mean, to be fair, you have to get past that initial, like, I mean, sometimes, important. I don't know how, honestly, you know, anybody who's ever been, I mean, I'd hope nobody was assaulted or raped, but if you have, like, you guys having relationships afterwards, like, God bless you, because I couldn't even imagine trying to even trust somebody like that again to, like, be in this, you know, that's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah.
So I guess then moving then into Elaine and Lucian going off the breaking the mating bond. I think, honestly, I'm not with the theory that, because some people even think that the mating bond's between Elaine and Tamlin, which I am heatingly against.
Yeah, no.
Also, SJM wouldn't put, like, dude, sisters before misters, bro. Like, there's no way she's putting in a story where, I think the misconception is that everybody thinks that Elaine is also going to rule Spring, but if that's the case, then it's going to be Lucian by her side and not Tamlin. So I feel like that's where people are mixing their wires at.
Because if she's going to rule Spring, that suggests that Tamlin's going to be gone.
Yes, because there's no way that SJM is pulling a I'm going to be with Tamlin thing. There's no fucking way.
No way.
I can't see it. And if it does, I don't even know how the hell she would put that together. Because they've never interacted.
No.
Never once in this whole thing, and I doubt
They've
it.
never met.
No, so there's no way. Except for that, for the very first time when he broke into the cottage.
Right. Even then, he probably didn't, I mean, as a High Fae, of course, he would see all of them, but she was hiding behind Nesta, who was hiding kind of behind their father, who were all hiding behind Feyre, who was adamantly drawing Tamlin's attention. That is to say, he probably didn't even really take note of her.
Also, because again, mating bonds are so different with other people, right? Because as we've seen in other instances where, you know, Rhys's and Feyre's didn't really happen at first. Like, it didn't click into place right away, but Rhys kind of knew. And then, of course, with Vivian and Callias, like, they didn't really know until after Under the Mountain, and it just clicked into place. Like,
in the middle of their set.
There was love there, but, like, they didn't know it was a mating bond. And then with Lucian, it happened almost immediately after she got turned, which makes sense because the mating bond fell into place after Feyre got killed and was turned. So it kind of makes sense in that way because that was the first time Rhys saw Feyre after getting killed.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's fake, and I don't think it's not mother given.
Right.
Or cauldron given, or whatever that person said. Again, good idea, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's fake. If it is, good on you for guessing, but, like, I just don't. I think Elaine and Lucian do fit together in a weird way.
I think they do, and we just haven't explored more of that yet. I think being more objective here and putting aside my dislike for Elaine, because I went hard on her just a moment ago with Asriel, I think I could see them together. I think they could be good together, but Elaine needs to figure out her shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because Lucian, nothing about the way that Lucian acts seems like fake or flaky or any chance of there being a crack and splitting it apart. I mean, honestly, Lucian deserves more.
Oh, yeah.
But I think if Elaine were to figure out her shit, and I think she is going to accept the mating bond, like, regardless of my feelings on her, I think that is going to happen. And I think once she finally does accept it, then I think things are going to smooth out for Lucian, and we're going to see their equalness there.
Honestly, I think the reason she's putting so much space in between them is because she knows she will fall for him if she actually is around him for too long.
Right.
And so she's scared of that, so she's pushing away from him. Like, he thinks it's because she's disgusted or whatever by him. But honestly, babe, I think it's the opposite. I think she knows so that she's putting her distance.
Right.
Because a lot of the time that we do see them together, or even in the few moments where there seems to be something, you know, especially when they first saw each other, you know, he introduced himself to her in the beginning of ACOTAR. Like, her eyes sparkled at him. Like, those, because that was during her quote-unquote depression phase. Yeah. And that was the one time her eyes glowed.
I mean, and that kind of fits with, you know, our theory that she, or at least more of my theory of that she is faking it, faking all of the depression. But in that sense, you know, you can't fake the mating bond there. So even if she was faking the depression and being distanced and stuff, she can't control her eyes sparkling at her mate.
Yeah.
Regardless of if she's accepted him or not right now, they are mates.
Yeah.
And she just has that physical, spiritual, emotional connection that she couldn't remove. I mean, even if she did reject it, it would still be there to an extent for a while.
I thought the other thing that was weird, and I brought this up in our main section, so go back to that because I talk about it for like a hot minute. I was talking about how when during ACOTAR, it was when they called the healer on her to see if something was wrong with her, and then he was tugging at the mating bond, and it took him so long to get to the end of the mating bond. And I was trying to say that I think it's because they're not Daemati, because what makes Feyre and Rhysand special is that they're Daemati, so they're kind of automatically tied, and it's easier to find because they know what they're looking for.
Right.
But also, and then she said that like it's like he pulled on a rib or something. And I thought it was so weird because we've never heard of something. I don't think that she's necessarily lying about that. I think her saying ow was eye roll, but whatever.
She definitely overreacted, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, because then she like runs up and then hides behind Nesta, and I'm like, bro.
Oh my god, I'm getting getting too close to this guy. I don't like it. Save me from my lover.
This hot fae male, shut the fuck up. We can barely get one. Just shut up.
Another thing I was gonna say about their equalness, which I think we've brought it before, is, you know, with Lucian being Helian's heir, unknown to Lucian at the moment still. But in that sense, you know, Elaine came from the cauldron. She was remade in the cauldron, and that gave her, you know, powers of seer and probably something else that we don't know because Nesta got a whole lot of shit. So I know we've mentioned that we think that Elaine got more than just seer. We just don't know what yet. And I feel like that then evens out with, you know, Lucian having his mother's bloodline of fire, as well as his unknown father, Helian, having most likely Helian's power somewhere inside of him.
It's interesting that you bring it up about power because, like, when I think about it, they always talk about how Elaine's a lady, right? But they also talked about at the beginning of ACOTAR how it was like during the escapade with Feyre and him when they were going through the Autumn Court, and he was talking about how, because he was the seventh brother, he basically was just among the common people, how he was raised to be more lord-like than his brothers were. They very much seem like the lord and lady type of people. Like, when you think of typical lady and lord, like, that's what you think.
I mean, this may be more of a stretch, but when Lucian was learning to be lord, in that sense, you know, he was interacting with all the commoners and befriending them and stuff. With Elaine, if we think about it at the estate, like, she was fairly close with, like, all the servants. And I wouldn't say she doted on them because she was more of the lady and they doted on her, but she was never, like, mean to them or whatever. She was very caring about them. So I guess the stretches, they're very similar in the fact that they care for the lesser people.
Yeah, and I think that they would be good rulers together once they, like, figured their shit out. But I also, because, okay, I mean, most of it's on Elaine, but it's also on Lucian too, but also, I give him sort of a pass because, like, his last lover fucking got decapitated. So, like, he's obviously a little bit more cautious, because I think he's not fighting really hard. Like, if he really wanted to fight for her, he would be doing more. And again, you could say it's because he's not pushing, but also I think he's scared that if he does push to fight for her, and that if he does get closer to her, that she's gonna die just like Jasminda did.
I think I agree with that. I think there's also, I mean, this is just a theory that I have, going back to the quadrangle or whatever you called it with Asriel. I think there's an extent where Lucian does see that Elaine is intrigued by Asriel.
Yeah.
And right now, Lucian feels less than worthy in that sense. Like, I'm sure if it came down to it and, you know, they did the whole blood duel or whatever it's called, fighting over their female, then he would power up. But at the same time, I think he's the kind of male that he wants his woman or his crush or whatever to be happy. So if he thinks that Elaine is going to be happy with Asriel, he will willingly step back. And I think in that sense, Lucian and Asriel are very similar because they don't think they're worthy of something.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sorry, talking about, so this quadrangle thing, like, it's interesting that you bring up the blood duel, because that's happening. That's definitely happening at some point. Like, why would she foreshadow it if it wasn't going to happen with them specifically?
I mean, I suppose in that sense, it has been brought up multiple times, whether it's Rhys threatening Az with it or other people, like, just mentioning it. It has been mentioned multiple times related to Az versus Lucian. And it does make me curious on how that's going to play out.
Because it's like they know Asriel's going to win, but I also feel like, I told you I had my crack theory about that, was that Gwen was going to burst into the duel as Asriel was about to, like, pummel Lucian to death, and she's like, wait, stop, he's my mate. In a very dramatic fashion, and be like, he's my mate, stop. And then Asriel's gonna be like, the fuck? I feel like Elaine in this quadrangle is gonna be so fucking jealous of Gwen. If, like, that happens beforehand, she's gonna be so jealous of her, and then everybody's gonna see it and be like, whoa, bitch. Like, honestly,
what if, like, I know this isn't our theory episode, but, like, what if Elaine is the one who ends up manipulating them to have a fight?
Or what if it's Elaine and Gwen that have the fight?
Oh, honestly, yeah, it's never been mentioned like that. It's always, but it has been like a mate can duel for their mate.
Because what if it's a thing where, like, Gwen and Asriel's mating bond somehow kind of shoves into place, and so then Elaine starts to fight Gwen for him? Because if it depends on, like, when things are going to get revealed and when it's not.
That does seem like a very Sarah kind of twist.
I know,
like,
right?
It's actually the female mates that are gonna fight.
Because they kept bringing up about how the men are just like, it's usually the men who fight, and I'm like,
I mean, and that also fits with what you just said a bit ago of Gwen being able to sense the mating bond, maybe, in the sense of like theirs is reversed. That could I remember now what I was gonna say about that earlier. I was just gonna mention that, like, maybe because Az has been so focused, like he's suppressed any like feelings and being able to recognize any kind of bond. He's suppressed that, and he's always had Reese by him with being Daemati, so it's hard for him to tell.
What if you remember how people were saying that like the cauldron messed with Lucian and Elaine's mating bond?
Mm-hmm.
What if Elaine is messing with his mating bond?
Ooh.
And using the cauldron to mess with his mating bond?
Ooh. Oh, that's gonna make me hate her more.
Because what if that's the evilness? What if that's the evilness of...
that she can deal with, like, mess up other people's mating bonds?
Because if back in our theory episode about the powers that bind us, about... I brought it up this time.
Yeah.
What about how Elaine and the cauldron are kind of working together?
Mm-hmm.
What if? What if? How... we wouldn't know.
Right.
Because why did Azrael kind of just flip a switch all of a sudden and it kind of was, okay, why is he doting on her so much?
Right.
Because it almost seemed very flippy.
I mean, it's kind of like going back to what it said about Daemati being able to infiltrate and you wouldn't even know they're there. Like, I'm not saying that she's a Daemati, but
yeah,
maybe the cauldron gave her similar powers because she's a seer.
Or maybe she put into his mind this idea that this future with them together of... You got really excited.
I did, because we've mentioned it before that we theorized that her being a seer meant she could see things, but she could also make other people see things. We've theorized that before, so that would make sense.
Yeah, because we said literally last episode that Elaine put it into Feyre's mind, that the whole Grayson thing with the cauldron. What if she just did that to Az and was like, no, babe, we're meant to be together. You're going to duel Lucian and, you're going to win and kill him and then we'll be together.
So that she can say she doesn't have a mate.
Yeah,
so
because
she
at that
can't be
point...
tied down.
Dude.
Damn, that is evil.
Dude, with the trove, she could do anything. Honestly, that's scary. If she has access to the trove and, like, we think she's going to. Because, again, they're forgetting that, yes, Nesta had more of a direct thing with the cauldron, but also Elaine was gifted powers, so don't fucking doubt her for a second.
She just never was around for that. She could have, like, been learning about it on her own, or she could have untapped potential with that. But, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, so she's never shown interest in it, so therefore she must not have the powers for it. It's like, what kind of reasoning is that?
God, we're so on the bad Elaine train. Like, it's wet. But honestly, I'm sticking with it. I feel it in my bones. I feel it. So then, I guess going into, because again, I do think most of it's on Elaine, but I also think a lot of it is on Lucian. Sorry, I think more of it is on Elaine, but I think Lucian has some fault in this for him putting as much distance as he has, because again, he's like, Azrael doesn't think that he's worthy.
Right.
I think he's also like double dealing in the case of the homewreck, which Lucian, Vasa, and Jurian are all staying in their Band of Exiles cottage together.
That's a funny throuple, honestly.
They probably have. I'm not gonna lie. Like, hey, we said that Jurian was like a freak in the sheiks, okay? Because there's no way he was getting Clythia in his bed and he wasn't good, all right?
Right. And, Vesta being entrapped for however long she's been entrapped. Of course she's gonna get as much sex as she can.
Also, is it funny that both Elaine and Azrael both have redheads?
That is kind of funny.
Some people theorize that fucking Gwen is Lucian's daughter.
Yeah, I've seen theories like that.
Could you imagine that? Lucian and Elaine together, and then
people freaking theorize that because Lucian did the right. It's like, has he ever done the right before kind of vibe?
I don't think so. I feel like that was
so either. I think that definitely was the one-time thing. The one time he was forced with Ianthe, but it like that kind of also ties in. I've also seen theories. I mean, this isn't really meant for this episode, but I'll say it anyway. Of like Gwen being Tamlin's daughter because Tamlin could have done the right with a nymph.
Honestly, I think she's Eris's daughter.
You think so?
I think so, because then this is a fucked up thing of like Azrael and Eris's daughter being together. Because you don't think his rebel ass was like, sleeping with as many lowborn ladies as he could?
I mean,
I doubt it.
He probably was.
So I feel like, I think also like the whole
Azrael dating. So wait, hang on. Lucian's mate is going after Azrael, while Lucian's technically niece in that sense is then with Azrael.
That would cause so so much drama, but it'd also be such a Sarah thing.
It would.
Because imagine, because I feel like that's kind of what brings Eris into the fold and what brings him to be more, I don't want to say good, but I think if he finds out he has a daughter, I feel like there's a level of he's going to, I don't know, fucking get more responsibility. Also, I think the reason Jesminda was such a thing for him was, I wonder if it's dramatic in the sense of he also had the lover that was lowborn, but he broke it off with her. Because what if at the time Moore and him were together, maybe he had a lover, and if he explained it to Moore, or if they had time, he would have said, oh, I didn't want to marry you, I have somebody that I love. I think that there's a missing link there that I'm interested to find out. So I think he's Eris's daughter 100%.
Interesting.
Now Vasa is kind of rumored to be Lucian's kind of tryst, because Lucian talks about her a lot in Frost and Starlight.
Yeah, that's true. And he's like almost always there.
Honestly, I don't think Vasa would want to sleep with him. Honestly, I don't think she would. Like, if I'm being honest, like, I don't see it. I see maybe Lucian being interested in her, but not the other way.
I think I could see that. I definitely am more on the Vasa with Jurian thing.
Oh,
I mean, clearly they spend like all their time together. Jurian seems the most interested in trying to figure out how to break her curse.
Also, it'd be kind of cool if they were king and queen, or there's this level of, I don't know, ruling together. Again, we haven't really seen much of them interact, but when we do see Jurian and Vasa interact, they're like bickering the hell out of it. It's like, and if we know anything about Sarah's relationships, any bickering couple, there's gonna be like a big, okay,
honestly,
flag.
That's like full on old married couple vibe in Sarah's writing.
Yeah, so it's like, that's a little bit, because I think Lucian is also looking for other options. Also, he's a guy. There's a level of, I kind of want to
if we remember,
my wick at some point.
Right. I mean, if we remember though, very first book, when talking about the right, he was just like, oh yeah, we get to dilly-dally. We get to dally on our own once Tamlin's had his pick, or, you know, he was, well, I guess at the time he was lying about it, but he's like, oh yeah, at the summer solstice, I found my own company.
God, that just reminds me of what Brandon said. It's just like, I would pick Baron's son too. All that fun. Elaine being subject to that fire. Honestly,
she might like it, but she has to try it first.
Honestly, I feel like Lucian would be a great lay.
Honestly,
like,
yeah.
I mean, any of them, but also, like, if I had a list,
if Lucian is actually given a chance, I think he's gonna be great.
I think he could go feral when he wants to. I feel like he would totally be the, okay, I'm gonna wine diner and I'm gonna be a gentleman the first time, and it actually happened that way. I'm gonna make a really good first time, but then at some point he's just gonna be like, no, I fucking need you, and then
the fire.
God, that was so fucking awkward of her to say that, but also it was probably the most comedic line they had.
It was very iconic in that sense.
Just like, I thought about Elaine being subject to that fire, and
I think it's like what made it awkward was more so of Feyre's reaction afterwards.
Yeah, honestly, like, if that was me with you, it's just like, ugh, don't think, no.
Yeah, don't think about that, but if you're taking it from the other side of, I mean, okay, the gross awkward part when that was the whole, like, yeah, why do you think we had so much fun in the war?
I think, okay, if I'm saying it in a personal way, if it was me for you, there'd be a level of, yeah, you know, fire, you know, yeah, get it. But then also a part of me would be like, no, but I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, don't tell me about it.
No, don't talk about it, but just like, yeah, you had sex with really hot, great, good. No, don't go into details.
I don't want the details, but good for you, girl.
I don't want the play-by-play. Give me the Cliff Notes version of what happened, and then we got it.
Yeah, we had sex. It was fiery.
Okay, good. So I think that there's so much, like, again, this series isn't even close to being done. I think that there's a level with these relationships that are just going to get even more tangled up, which is what we haven't seen yet. Because again, everything's been pretty straightforward.
Right.
In terms of romance. I mean, that one moment where Nesta and Eris had that one dancing, but that wasn't even...
That was for political gain.
That wasn't even a true, like, okay, I'm gonna go... It happened so... It resolved so fast. But also, I don't think
That's
we truly...
make sure of that.
Oh, yeah. We haven't had, like, a truly messed up bag of relationships, because, like, everything's tied to each other. Jurian to Vasa, then Vasa to Lucian, Lucian to Elaine, Elaine to Azriel, Elaine to Gwen. Like, it's all hodgepodge together.
Very much. And very, very connected, and there's probably going to be more intertwining and scheming and and plotting.
So it'll be interesting because then I feel what's also good about these books and what I want to applaud Sarah about, this will be my last thought, is that I like how the romance is intertwined into the politics and the story. Because it depends on where the story will go, where the romance will go. For example.
Right.
If, Tamlin did die and there was an opening in spring, I'm going to think that Elaine and Lucian are going to be together because blah, 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 like we said, they'd be High Lady and Lord. If Tamlin doesn't, there also is a possibility that they don't be together. And, the mating bond is broken and she goes with Asriel or whatever. I don't think that will happen, but okay. Just the example.
Right.
I love how it's so intertwined in the story, but also they're both essential. It's not just a romance story, but it's also, there's so much theory about all of the events of what's happened, but there's almost so much theory about relationships. And I don't think we necessarily had that before. We suspected that Nesta and Cassian were endgame, but then it was proven very quickly that they were. So there wasn't much doubt in most of the relationships up until now, but now there's so much questions and answers that it's exciting, but at the same time I want to know, and it's frustrating.
Right.
But that's also what makes a good book and what
We're
sells
all under
something.
Sarah's control.
Which, it's okay.
I know. I am looking forward to the 6th book. I know that means that I have to get through the rest of her series, but if it's going to be an Asriel's point of view, man, I'm fucked. Straight up, no joke, I am fucked.
Well, at that point, the graphic audio is going to be caught up with that.
If it's gonna be Sean narrating the whole 6th book, if it is Asriel's point of view, I am gonna be dead.
So I'm excited for what's to come. I think a lot of this is romance, and I think that's why a lot of people like her books, but I like how it's all intertwined, and I like how there's some question, which again, people find very frustrating about the relationships.
But, like you said, that is a good book if you're always questioning something. Because there are some books where you'll be questioning, but you don't get any answers, and those are the frustrating reads. But the way Sarah writes is she'll give you little snippets, or she'll actually give you a lot of snippets, and you have to figure out how to puzzle them together while still getting more questions. And that keeps you engaged while you're reading it. And I think that's what makes it so fun.
It wasn't until I read it the third time that I changed my perspective about Elaine. For the first 2 reads, I was like, yeah, no, she's fine. But it wasn't until this last read with you that I was like, no, this is definitely getting too sus for me. So
yeah,
no, I'm out. But yeah, so I'm excited. So yeah, please tell us in the bottom what your theories are, and if you are pro Illyriel or Gwenriel, or who do you think should end up with who, and why do you think that, and any theories like that. So yes, unfortunately, this is our last mini episode, but
of the season.
Yes. there will be more to come. So I wanted to give a kind of just this end for the people in the next season. So we will be having a couple interviews next season with the I think it's the 3 other members of the graphic audio. So we're going to hopefully talk to Sean, Asriel, Amanda, who's Morgan, and also Nora, who is Amryn. So there won't necessarily be, and especially since Frost and Starlight is such a small book, there won't be as many theory episodes in that one, and then Silver Flame will be all theory.
It's such a long book too, so.
Well, we'll have the 2, we'll have Cassian and Nesta on, but otherwise it's a long book, like Liesl said, but it's gonna be a jack full of more theory episodes.
And it'll be, probably by the time we get to it, probably still be the last one, so that'll be all theory at that point.
Yeah, so, and maybe, SJM will have come out with some snippets here and there about stuff, which we could definitely talk about. Yeah, so please look forward to that in the 4th season. Oh my god, 4th season. But yeah, so next episode, the next 4 episodes, the last 4 episodes, like Liesl said, it'll be the 2 end parts of ACOTAR, and then it will be the mom and dad's episodes, each respectively. So we're doing the mom's episode first and the dad's episode second.
We switch up every season, apparently.
Yeah, we just decided that to spice things up. But yeah, so we look forward to seeing you guys for the rest of the season. So we'll see all of you spoilery people in a future episode to come. But also, yeah, please follow and please share this episode with everybody who, is into the ACOTAR theory stuff and really want to go and deep dive into it like we just did. But also recommend this podcast for also people who don't really know much about ACOTAR and want to get into it and want to, have people talk about it. So yeah, please follow the Facebook, the Instagram, the TikTok. Also follow the Patreon for free if you can. Also, if you want to support us in another way, you can be a member on the Patreon, which the High Fae, which is $3 a month, and the Inner Circle, which is $5 a month, which would really go to help us pay for all of our subscriptions and the stuff that we actually use to record these episodes. Would be greatly appreciated. I think, is there anything to say to the people before we leave?
Also, come join our Discord. It's completely free. The link is on the Patreon, but if you can't access that, then just email us and we'll definitely add you. We're always looking for new people in our community because we love talking about these books. And as much as we love talking with each other, we also would like some more opinions and ideas, theories. So yeah, definitely come to that. And we hope you enjoy the rest of our season and the seasons to come.
Yeah, something's wrong with the Discord link, so I'm gonna have to send it to like the emails that the people have like for the free members. So if you sign up as a free member, whatever email you use, I'll send that to your email for the Discord link. So hopefully that will work.
Just message us as well.
Yeah, whichever works. But yeah, so like Liesl said, we'll see you for the rest of this season. So hope you guys have a great rest of your evening, day, whatever.
Life.
Life. Have a good life. Don't be an Elaine.
Be happy and healthy.
Be a Gwen. But yeah,
yes,
so
be a Gwen. That is a good way.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Be healthy. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. So bye, guys.
Bye.
Don't let this moment go. Don't let we just waste it. I'll kiss you and then you kiss